This is actually insane because we're not just talking about some random tennis match argument here. We're talking about a complete meltdown that has the entire tennis world divided and Jeļena Ostapenko facing consequences that could destroy her career. When that final point landed on court 11 at the US Open, nobody expected what came next. The crowd was already celebrating Taylor Townsend's incredible upset victory. But then Ostapenko opened her mouth and said the words that changed everything. Words so shocking, so completely out of pocket that even seasoned tennis fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. And now the aftermath is absolutely brutal. Sponsors are pulling out, tournament officials are scrambling, and the tennis community is asking one question. How did a professional athlete think she could get away with saying something this offensive to another player and face zero consequences? But here's where the story gets really complicated, because this isn't just about tennis etiquette or sportsmanship. This is about something much deeper. Something that has black athletes and tennis fans everywhere feeling a type of way about what really happened on that court. And when I tell you the lip-reading experts got involved and revealed exactly what was said word for word, you'll understand why this scandal is about to get so much worse before it gets better. So, let me take you back to what actually happened, because if you think you know this story, trust me, you don't know the half of it. August 27, 2025, US Open second round. Taylor Townsend, ranked 139 in the world, walks onto court 11 to face Jeļena Ostapenko, the 25th seed and former French Open champion. On paper, this should have been a routine victory for Ostapenko. She's the established player, the one with the Grand Slam title, the one everyone expected to cruise through to the next round. But Taylor Townsend had other plans. And you know what? Good for her, because this woman has been grinding for years, fighting to make her mark in singles while being absolutely dominant in doubles. She's currently ranked number 1 in the world in doubles, has multiple Grand Slam titles in that format, but singles has always been where she wanted to prove herself. And on this day, against one of the biggest names in women's tennis, everything clicked. Townsend came out swinging from the very first game. Her serve was on point, her returns were crisp, and you could see Ostapenko getting more and more frustrated as the match progressed. The first set was competitive, but Townsend managed to break through and take it 7-5. Then something shifted in the second set. Maybe Ostapenko felt the pressure. Maybe Townsend just found another gear. But what happened next was pure domination. Townsend absolutely crushed the second set 6-1. And suddenly we had one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. The crowd was going wild. Townsend was celebrating. And everyone was thinking about what an incredible story this was. A lower-ranked American player taking down a seeded former Grand Slam champion on home soil at the US Open. This is the kind of moment that makes tennis, but then they met at the net and everything went completely sideways. Instead of the customary handshake and good match, Ostapenko decided this was the perfect moment to completely lose it. The cameras caught it, the microphones picked it up, and what came out of her mouth was so shocking that the crowd immediately started booing. Not gentle booing, not polite disapproval, but loud, angry booing from hundreds of people who could not believe what they just witnessed. And here's what we could hear clearly. Ostapenko telling Taylor Townsend, and I quote, "You have no class and no education." But wait, there's more, because she kept going. She said, "We will see how well you are with little education or class, and you are the worst disrespectful player and you have no education. You have no education. You have no education." Seriously, 3 times. She said, "You have no education." 3 times to a black American woman who just beat her fair and square in front of thousands of people on live television at the most prestigious tennis tournament in America. The crowd was having none of it. The booing got louder and louder until Ostapenko finally walked away, leaving Townsend standing there having to process what just happened while trying to enjoy what should have been one of the biggest wins of her career. And you know what Townsend did? She handled it with more class than Ostapenko has shown in her entire career. When reporters asked her about it immediately after the match, she said it's competition. People get upset when they lose. Some people say bad things. Anyway, but then she added something that showed exactly who she is as a person. Still, there's no beef. But again, like you saw, I didn't back down because you're not going to insult me. Especially after I carried myself a certain type of way with nothing but respect. Can we talk about the composure it takes to respond like that? To have someone attack your intelligence and education in front of the world and still take the high road, because I don't know if I could have been that precious. I really don't. But here's where the story gets even more interesting, because Ostapenko didn't just randomly decide to have a meltdown. According to her, this whole thing started because of something that happened during the match. Something so petty, so absolutely ridiculous that when I tell you what it was, you're going to understand exactly what kind of person we're dealing with. Ostapenko was mad because Taylor Townsend didn't apologize for a net cord. Let me explain this for anyone who doesn't follow tennis closely. Sometimes when you hit a shot, the ball clips the top of the net and still goes over to win the point. It's pure luck. And there's an unwritten rule in tennis that you raise your hand or say sorry to acknowledge that you got lucky. Most players do it automatically. But here's the thing, it's not actually required. It's just courtesy. And apparently Townsend didn't do it during a crucial point in their match. That's it. That's what set Ostapenko off. A missing sorry for a lucky shot that happens in literally every tennis match ever played. Ostapenko posted on Instagram later trying to justify her behavior, and honestly it made everything worse. She wrote, "Today after the match, I told my opponent that she was very disrespectful as she had a net ball in a very deciding moment and didn't say sorry, but her answer was to say that she doesn't have to say sorry at all." Then she added this gem. "If she plays in her homeland, it doesn't mean that she can behave and do whatever she wants." Excuse me, what? Her homeland? What exactly is that supposed to mean? Because the way that reads, it sounds like she's saying Taylor Townsend was acting up because she was playing in America and somehow that gives her permission to not follow tennis etiquette. The undertones in that statement are not subtle at all. And then the tennis community started responding, and honey, they were not having it. Naomi Osaka, who knows a thing or two about dealing with unfair treatment in tennis, posted on her social media, calling out Ostapenko's comments. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, that telling a black tennis player they have no education is one of the worst things you can say in a majority white sport. Because let's be real about what's happening here. Tennis has a long, complicated history with black players. From Alpha Gibson, breaking barriers in the 1950s, to the Williams sisters dealing with racism throughout their careers, black tennis players have constantly had their intelligence, their education, their right to be on the court questioned. For Ostapenko to use that specific language, whether she realized the implications or not, hit a nerve that goes way deeper than tennis. And Naomi Osaka wasn't done. She also said this wasn't even the craziest thing Ostapenko has said in her career, implying that this kind of behavior is part of a pattern. Which honestly makes sense when you think about it. Professional tennis players don't just randomly explode like this unless there's something deeper going on. But wait, because this is where the story takes another wild turn. A lip-reading expert on TikTok decided to analyze the footage and break down exactly what was said during that exchange. And when the full conversation got revealed, according to the lip-reader, the conversation went something like this. Ostapenko started complaining about the net court incident. And when Townsend basically said she didn't have to apologize, Ostapenko lost it completely. The no education, no class comments were just the tip of the iceberg. There were more personal attacks, more insults, and a level of disrespect that honestly should result in serious consequences. And you know what Taylor Townsend did while all this drama was exploding on social media? She went out and played her next match against the number 5 seed in the world, Mara Andrea, a teenager who's been destroying everyone on tour. And Townsend didn't just play. She won in straight sets, 7-5, 6-2. She wore this incredible outfit with painted flames on the sleeves. And when reporters asked her about the design, she said it represented phoenixes rising from the ashes, getting stronger from adversity. I mean, could the symbolism be any more perfect? While Ostapenko was online trying to justify her behavior, Townsend was out there binging out her victory with another upset win. Now, here's where things get really interesting from a tennis politics perspective, because the WTA and tournament officials found themselves in a really difficult position. On one hand, you have clear unsportsmanlike conduct from Ostapenko. On the other hand, she's a former Grand Slam champion, a seeded player, and someone who brings viewers and revenue to tournaments. But the public reaction was so swift and so overwhelmingly negative that they couldn't just ignore it. Social media was exploding with criticism of Ostapenko. Tennis fans, both black and white, were calling her comments racist. Sports commentators were weighing in. Even people who don't normally follow tennis were talking about the story. And then something interesting happened. Ostapenko tried to apologize. Sort of. 3 days later, she posted another Instagram story that was honestly one of the most pathetic non-apology apologies I've ever seen. She said that English isn't her first language. And when she said education, she was only talking about tennis etiquette, not actual education. But here's the problem with that excuse. She said no education 3 times. 3 times. And she was speaking clearly enough for everyone to understand exactly what she meant. Thus, she's been playing professional tennis for years, doing interviews in English, posting on social media in English. The language barrier excuse doesn't hold water when you've been fluent enough to communicate in English professionally for over a decade. And notice what she didn't do in that apology. She didn't mention Taylor Townsend by name. She didn't apologize directly to her. She didn't acknowledge the racial undertones that everyone was talking about. It was a carefully crafted PR statement designed to make the controversy go away without actually taking responsibility for what she said. But Taylor Townsend wasn't about to let it slide. When reporters asked her about the apology after she won her doubles match, her response was perfect. She said she hadn't even seen it. She hadn't heard from Ostapenko personally, and honestly she was too busy focusing on her tennis to worry about what Ostapenko was posting on social media. Then she said something that really got to the heart of the matter. That's nice that she did that she apologized. That's fine. That's cool. At the end of the day, I think that it's a learning lesson for her. It's great that she went to social media and apologized. But I really hope that from this she can take that like, hey, you can't control people and it's better just to focus on yourself. Translation: your public apology is meaningless because you still don't understand what you did wrong, and I'm not wasting any more energy on this because I have a tournament to play. And that's exactly what makes this story so powerful. Taylor Townsend didn't let Ostapenko's behavior derail her tournament. She didn't get caught up in the drama or the social media debates. She just kept playing tennis and winning matches. She made it to the 4th round of the US Open, which is the deepest she's ever gone in a Grand Slam singles draw. Meanwhile, Ostapenko, she was eliminated in the 2nd round after losing to Townsend, then spent the rest of the tournament dealing with negative press and trying to explain her behavior. But let's talk about the broader implications of this story, because this isn't just about two tennis players having an argument. This is about power dynamics, about respect, and about how black athletes are treated differently in predominantly white sports. Tennis has always been seen as a gentleman's sport, right? It has this reputation for being polite, refined, proper. Players are expected to show respect for their opponents, for the officials, for the traditions of the game. But what happens when that politeness and respect only flows one way? What happens when black players are expected to be gracious and respectful no matter what, but their opponents can say whatever they want without consequences? Because that's what we're seeing here. Taylor Townsend played a fantastic match, won fair and square, and conducted herself with professionalism throughout. But because she didn't apologize for a lucky shot, something she had zero obligation to do, she got labeled as disrespectful and uneducated by her opponent. And this isn't an isolated incident. We've seen this pattern before in tennis. Black players getting criticized for showing emotion, for celebrating too much, for not being gracious enough in victory or defeat. Meanwhile, white players can throw tantrums, break rackets, argue with officials, and it's just seen as competitive fire. Serena Williams dealt with this for her entire career. Every time she showed passion or argued a call, she was labeled as aggressive or difficult. But when white players did the same thing, they were praised for their intensity. Venus Williams has talked about having her intelligence questioned throughout her career despite being one of the most articulate and thoughtful athletes in any sport. And now we have Taylor Townsend, a woman who's literally a college graduate who speaks multiple languages, who runs her own business ventures, being told she has no education by someone who couldn't handle losing a tennis match. The racial implications of Ostapenko's comments cannot be ignored. When you tell a black person they have no education, especially in a context where they've just outperformed you in something, you're tapping into centuries of racist stereotypes about black intelligence and capability. Whether Ostapenko intended it that way or not, that's how it lands. And that's why the reaction was so strong. But here's what gives me hope about this story. The response from the tennis community was overwhelmingly supportive of Taylor Townsend. Players, commentators, fans, people from all backgrounds came together to call out Ostapenko's behavior and lift up Townsend. That's progress. That's the tennis community saying, we don't tolerate this kind of disrespect. Tournament officials are reviewing the incident, and there's growing pressure for some kind of disciplinary action. The WTA has conduct policies that cover unsportsmanlike behavior and actions that bring the sport into disrepute. What Ostapenko did could definitely fall under those categories. And even if there's no formal suspension, the court of public opinion has already delivered its verdict. Ostapenko's reputation has taken a massive hit. Her social media mentions are overwhelmingly negative. Tennis fans are calling for accountability, and that kind of reputation damage can last for years. Plus, let's be real about something. Ostapenko's career has been on a bit of a downward trajectory lately anyway. She won the French Open back in 2017, which was amazing, but since then she hasn't been able to consistently perform at that level. She's known more for her inconsistency and apparently her attitude problems than for her tennis achievements. This incident just reinforces the narrative that she's difficult to work with and doesn't handle pressure well. That's not the kind of reputation that leads to lucrative sponsorship deals or invitations to prestigious exhibitions. Meanwhile, Taylor Townsend is having a career renaissance. At 29, she's playing some of the best tennis of her life. Her double success has given her financial stability and confidence, and now she's translating that into singles results. The way she handled this controversy is only going to make her more popular with fans and more attractive to potential sponsors. Townsend has always been someone who represents the sport well. She's articulate, professional, and relatable. She's overcome injuries, ranking struggles, and now public disrespect with grace and determination. Those are the qualities that brands want to be associated with. And let's talk about the broader context of American tennis right now. With Serena retired and Venus nearing the end of her career, there's been a lot of discussion about who the next generation of American women's tennis stars will be. Players like Coco Gauff and Jessica Pegula are carrying that torch. But there's room for more stories like Taylor Townsend's. A 29-year-old mother and former college player making deep runs at Grand Slams, is the kind of inspiring story that American tennis needs. It shows that there are multiple paths to success, that it's never too late to chase your dreams, and that handling adversity with class can be just as powerful as any forehand winner. As for Jeļena Ostapenko, well, she's learned the hard way that actions have consequences. In today's social media world, you can't just say whatever you want and expect it to disappear. Everything is recorded, everything is analyzed, and everything has the potential to go viral. Her reputation in the tennis world has taken a serious hit, and rebuilding that trust is going to take a lot more than a half-hearted Instagram apology. She's going to have to show through her actions over time that she understands what she did wrong and is committed to doing better. But honestly, based on her response so far, I'm not holding my breath for that kind of growth and self-awareness. What I am excited about is seeing what Taylor Townsend does next. She's proven she can compete with the best players in the world when she's playing her best tennis. She's shown she can handle pressure and adversity with incredible maturity. So, she doesn't want to make it in the most unfair, cold state. And she's demonstrated the kind of character that makes you want to root for someone. The tennis world is better when players like Taylor Townsend are succeeding. She represents the sport with dignity. She brings new fans to the game. And she shows that tennis is for everyone regardless of background or ranking. And isn't that what sports should be about? Competition, respect, and celebrating excellence regardless of where it comes from.